Hello, happy Sunday. I don't know what that little hand gesture was. I was going for my water bottle and I missed it. So, you know my line. I'm so excited to talk to you about today's lesson. So this came up, we'll jump right into it. This came up like crazy this week. I actually changed the initial Zoom that I had planned for today so that we could talk about this because it came up so much. So the brain-body connection in terms of our body being against us, that's really the foundation of this message. And it came up in different ways, I'd say. Hold on, I just want to make sure, everyone, if you can, make sure to just mute. Make sure that on my end, I have everyone muted. Okay, so otherwise my ADD, everyone's gonna be here for an hour. So the idea that the body holds on to our stress, that there's a physical connection between our mental state, our physical state. Now we all know, just like we know it's good to drink enough water, right? And we don't always do that, right? But when it comes to this, we know the brain and the body are connected, but how we actually use that for anything. Has that ever confused any of you guys? That even if you believe that the brain and the body are connected, you're like, okay, well, what good does that do me? How does that apply? How do I fix it? I know for me, every time I hear something that's wrong, I'm like, okay, cool, but how do I fix it? Tell me in the chat if you guys can relate to that sentiment. I feel like it's our nature to want to fix something that we can tell is wrong. But if we're looking at the wrong injury, the wrong, reason, the whatever, if we're just missing it and we're just trying to treat what we're seeing, what's the point? What's the point of that effort? When the core of it is the way the brain and the body are connected, the way you process disappointment, trauma, stress, all of that, illness, the way that doesn't linger, just because it's not in your conscious mind, it still lingers, it still exists. So I think someone is unmuted. If you wouldn't mind making sure that your thing is muted. Okay, cool. So let me ask you this. Let's start here. How often have you said your body is against you? Like, oh, my body is against me. I want to return it. I want to get a new model. Like I'm tired of this shit. Like my body just hates me. And that hatred is mutual a lot of times. And I've been there. Oh my God, for sure. I was getting diagnosed with old people stuff when I was not an old person. That's not fun. So the brain and the body, though, are not separate entities. You're all one. You're all one thing. There's no team. There's no team, not body and body. What did I write here? I wrote a funny example. It's not Sally's conscious mind versus the United Union of Sally's organs. It's not like oh, well, they're going to wage war. It's all one thing. One machine has one outcome to survive. Okay. So if we are weak in the connection between that brain and that body, right? And things like society telling us our body's not good, telling us we're not healthy, we're not trying hard enough, body image. Oh my God, the amount of unhealthy shit just being in high school, honestly. Most of my worst disordered eating years were towards the end of high school. And I really thought that I was just trying to get healthy because I was getting ready to graduate, but that really furthers the divide between brain and body. Body dysmorphia is a complete disconnect between the brain and the body, right? Parents, partners, chronic illness, gaslighting, either to ourselves or from other people, doctors, medical care, mental health care professionals who have given us just a bad taste, for the experience at all. Diet culture, like I said, what is considered healthy, but really is not healthy. It messes with that connection. How could we ever have it right if we're being told the pursuit of health is this very unhealthy way of pursuing it? Trauma. Enough said. Trauma, of any kind, of any degree. especially young in life. We've talked about how that affects the oxytocin levels, your love and your trust hormones and all that stuff, and how that can lead to issues. But I think it really sets you up to not even pay attention to that brain body connection. There's big enough trauma that sometimes as a response, you lose feeling in certain parts of the body, or you can't feel like you can physically feel. But for example, like during sex, sensation's gone. Talk about people who have incontinence, people who have issues with bowel movements, not being able to allow themselves to go to the bathroom at all, like all of these anxiety manifestations happen in the body physically. So all of these things over time, if we're never told to look at this, but we're told to do this instead, we're never figuring out why it is that the issue exists. Are you guys with me so far? I had a lot of calls today, so I'm going to try and be as non-confusing as possible. So thoughts on this so far? If you're following me and you're, if you're relating, if you're like, I don't understand, tell me in the chat. Because today we're going to work on dropping into that feeling, connecting with ourselves. It's not easy. I don't anticipate for intense topics like this, anyone to hear it and be like, oh, I'm fine, after decades. It's just not going to happen. But my hope is that I plant the seed, and that you let us know how we can help and support you. And we grow from here. But at the end of the day, if we're not dropping into what we're feeling, we're not, we're shaming ourselves, we're berating ourselves and stuff like that. We're never fixing the problem. So what did I write here? What if you didn't hate yourself after you ate the damn cookie? I'm just going to simplify it down into a lighthearted example, I guess. What if you didn't hate yourself after having the cookie? What's your fear? If you ate a cookie, just a delicious ass big Auntie Anne's gooey, delicious chocolate chip cookie that everyone deserves to experience in their life. If you ate that cookie and you didn't loathe yourself, what is your fear in not? Tell me in the chat. What is that hesitation? And some of you might be, I just don't feel like I can. I don't feel like I cannot hate myself. But if you can try and break it down, right? Okay, let's see here. Ooh, I like it. Losing control. I'd gain 10 pounds. That I'm going to eat 10. So let me ask a question then. Does it make you eat less cookies hating yourself? Because whether it's now or it's a cookie in the future, cookies might always be a part of your life. But does the hating of yourself with the cookie change anything about that? Does the hate undo what you just did? The hatred that comes after the fact, I would argue to say it compounds the stress hormones that you're going to get at releasing after if you're hating yourself, but it's not like we have to. The hating of yourself isn't stopping your behavior. It isn't causing you to do or not do anything. It just feels like if you didn't hate yourself for having the goddamn cookie, that all hell's going to break loose. Everyone's going to know you're some slob who doesn't care and just eats cookies. And that's it. It's the end for you. And I don't mean to be sounding patronizing. That was probably the dialogue in my brain for a really long time, was what kind of a slob am I if I don't care about, eating the cookie? But I realized it did nothing for me. I still went about eating a cookie or not eating a cookie after that, regardless of how miserable I was or I wasn't. So let's see here. Why is that a choice you're continuing to make? Hating the one body you have over a cookie, because not eating the cookie didn't get you to your goal any quicker, right? You've tried that. You've not eaten the damn cookie for how long? So when eating the cookie really is only going to be as impactful and as powerful as we make it. It's the after effect that matters. Your body really doesn't give a shit about a cookie. Like if you're doing all the other stuff you can and you're like, I really want this cookie, you will live, I promise. And it won't be such a big setback. Maybe you feel puffy the next day. Maybe you feel a little crappy for a few days. Okay, we got this shit for life. We got time. Everyone's saying life is short. Life is long, So like, take some naps and have the cookie. It's not, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the point there, is to always stay connected. Like, what am I doing to myself and this is all barring mental health issues, that's more in depth, but at the surface, what am I providing to myself by imposing this negativity on myself? And then to get to the point of committing to wanting that to change. That's all you need. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to really know what the hell to do. You just have to know that you don't want to feel that anymore. So I have a perspective I want to run by you guys. All right. This one's a little bit deep. So, and some of you who are on here have heard this on our call this last week, which is why we're talking about it now. So, how many times I started out this Zoom asking, have you said to yourself, my body hates me, my body's against me? Well, perception change, perspective change. What if your body does not hate you? What if your body, and bear with me here because it's going to sound terribly cringy until I get my point across, but what if your body actually loves the shit out of you and wants you to live? And there's something malfunctioning and there's something going wrong that is jeopardizing your ability to survive. And all of the struggle and strife and pain and awful symptoms that you experience is literally your body trying to drag you out of friggin' shark infested waters so that you could live. That actually the feeling you're feeling, which is not great, is the battle that's happening so that your body can keep you alive. I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm not saying that makes it suck any less. But the idea that our body is against us as if it's this enemy is never going to get us to the point of wanting to take care of it. You might go through phases where it feels, you get hyper attached to the idea of this super healthy yogi lifestyle you want to live. And it's just not sustainable, right? Because then it's the week before your period and you're like, I hate everyone and everything. And I feel like I'm climbing the walls. You don't give a damn about the yogi lifestyle, right? Because it's not real. The reality of it is that your body, if it didn't give a shit, it would just be like, peace, good luck with all of that, and you'd be screwed. You just keel over, right? But our goal, our one biological, I don't care who the hell you are, our one biological duty is survival. That's the instinct that's built into all of us, is just base survival. Our organs function to survive to a certain degree. We have a baseline set up. And that's how everything operates. We are a machine of survival. So if we're sitting there thinking that that our body is just like, haha, and making our life hell, of course it's going to feel like hell. But again, not to say you're not allowed to be really pissed off at your body or pissed off at the fact that there is this fight that your body has to put up, but taking the attention away from it being something against you and putting it on, be pissed at the unfairness, be pissed at the fact that other people don't have to deal with this. That's a logical thing to think. It is okay to feel like, yes, there's illnesses that are worse, but I'm still allowed to feel pissed off that this is the card I have been dealt, without it being about you versus your body. You and your body can both be pissed at the situation. I'm sure your body doesn't want to have to deal with dragging your ass around and you being mad at it all the time. How many times it's wanted food and we've been like, no, bad. We've been a jerk. Our body's been really trying and chugging along for us this whole time. And if you really think back on how many times, just in the name of health, even, we've really been assholes to it. I don't know. When I started thinking this way, again, I have my days I'm just pissed off, but it really helped me not to put that emphasis on wishing I wasn't in this meat suit so much, it made me feel like I could be mad at the unfairness because that is what it is, but I didn't have to make it about this curse that I have been bestowed with, that I have to fight this enemy, this invisible enemy. And it's me against the world and this enemy. That is lonely as shit. So when I don't feel well, I actually feel bad for my body. I actually say, like, I'm like, damn, like, it sucks that, like, my poor little ribs, like, if I hurt my ribs doing something, I have connective tissue issues. So my ribs, my diaphragm, my spine, like, everything up here is very much affected by it. So some days, like, if you guys remember when I was moving, I broke a freaking rib. I don't remember how. No injury happened. Just, I guess I moved a lot, and things kind of shifted. I could have been like, like, goddamn body, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I was like, my poor rib is broken. It's a crazy concept to think of. And it's like, I can get like emotional thinking of it in that way, where it's like, poor little Tink Tink's been trying to get along here. So I want to hear what you guys think. I want to hear your thoughts as you're hearing this. Honestly, tell me it's a crock of shit if you feel like it's a crock of shit, but what is it? Who's connecting with it and how? Tell me in the chat. Okay, so this may sound dumb, it won't, and cringy too, but I watched the show called Cells at Work. I probably love that show, which is about cells in a body that are represented as people, and their one goal is to help their body survive. And I cried at it because I was like, wow, my body is fighting so hard for me all the time, even when I feel so crappy and even when it's malfunctioning. Yeah, seriously, or even when you have, let's say your stomach looks a certain way, right? And you don't like it and you want to compare it to other stomachs and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But that stomach is also in pain all the time and bloated, and you're running to the bathroom and it is really going through it at that moment. And you're hating on like, oh, I look like I'm so bloated. This is so gross, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But try it. I bet it'll blow your mind if you try it. Just give it 1 week. Pinpoint when you do it and then correct it. It's not going to be instinctive right away. But you pinpoint when you are kind of not thinking of your body in that way and try to change the perspective to be like, my poor blah, blah, blah. Like my poor feet, they're really trying and they're hurting today, or like whatever it is. It's going to feel really weird at first, but it'll start to feel more natural. And what that means is you won't have to do the coaching side of it. You won't nitpick because of it as easily. So let's see. This concept makes me think of my body as a separate entity and give it grace. Like I'd give a friend grace if they hurt me unintentionally. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the only one we got, unfortunately, right? It's the only one we got. It's like, it doesn't like the card it's been dealt either. You are in this together, so, okay. Now, what did I write here? I gotta figure out how to turn off all of my notifications when I do this call. But then I have anxiety about the notifications I'll miss. Anyone really? So, my goal is I want you to entertain this idea, even if you can't adopt it yet. That can come with time, but just try to entertain the idea, because the way that is coming naturally to you now isn't serving you. So what do you have to lose? You're going to feel a little cheesy at first. So let's see. All right. So I want to take this as an opportunity to try to show you my favorite new somatic thing. And some of you I did this with on the phone as well. So it's a take on the stop, drop, and roll exercise, which we have more in-depth Zooms on in the page in the classroom. So let us know if you need those. So what I want you guys to do, because if I said to you, when you feel stressed, where do you feel it on your body? A lot of you would know one area that you just get stressed and you feel it. And then I feel like there'd be a lot of people that are like, I don't know. And even there's some people who know they're stressed because of the issues they're having, but they're like, I don't even freak out every day. Understandable. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of something that, and don't go too deep here, right? Because I can't like be there with you. So, but I want you to think of like something that invokes an emotion that you recently have been like, oh, I don't have time to deal with that. Just think of it lightly until you start to feel that uncomfortability of, I don't want to think about that. Okay. Get to that point, then stop and analyze where on your body do you feel the stress. That's all I want you to focus on. where, what happens, what does it feel like? As if it's subtle, if it's obvious. Tell me in the chat if you can feel it, because you might not on this situation, but you can text with me if you don't. When you get stressed, where do you feel it on your body? Stress in my neck. Okay. Neck and shoulders, face, shoulders, and back. Stomach always. A dull, heavy feeling in my stomach. How many of you guys are surprised hearing this? Because once you see it, you're like, yes, okay, I feel that. Because you didn't even realize to think about this connection of like, oh, I guess I do even subtly feel this on my body. We're just kind of used to that mode. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to put your hand where you feel any of the sensations that you're feeling, okay? So for me, when I get stressed, I get really tight right in here. Like I literally feel like someone's vice gripping me. So I want you to put your hand right on there. And then we're gonna be tapping, so gently. Insert Wolf of Wall Street reference here. But you wanna start just gently tapping. And I want you to think of an emotion that you're feeling, right? And then I want you to put it in this sentence the way I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm just going to use an example randomly. But even though I feel overwhelmed, I can still take breaks. Even though I feel rushed, I can do what I can do. Even though I feel anxious, I can be okay. Just doesn't have to be this big ornate, like, positivity, kumbaya thing, right? Because that's not even going to be believable when you're freaking stressing out about it, right? But you just want to kind of give yourself like a little mild reassurance. Like, even though I feel scared, I can sit here. Doesn't have to be anything major. Okay, so you're going to do that couple times while you're just breathing. I don't like telling people how to breathe. Breathe how it's comfortable. You're anxious. I'm not going to make you breathe different. Just try to not breathe so fast. It helps me every time. Thinking about counting makes me more anxious. So once you've done that and you feel a little bit more at ease, right? This is the cool part. You're going to stop tapping and you're going to just rub in a circle and breathe. Who feels tingliness dissipating? Like who feels that it changes something? I'm going to do it back here because I feel that too. So back here, it doesn't even have to be like a lot. Like it can be, oh my God, I don't even know what my hair looks like back here, guys. So you can just gently tap. Okay. And do the same thing. Even though I feel frustrated, I can breathe. Whatever you need to make your statement. And then caress or rub or whatever you feel like calling it. Thoughts. Anybody doing it along with us? Is it weird to see things kind of like you feel a shift? You're like, oh, it doesn't have to mean that like you're cured, you don't care about anything. But do you feel the dissipating of it at least? It's so cool. I feel like the chest is the tingliest one. Definitely, because you get like more surface area. But do it a few times. And say the biggest thing is saying something that you feel is believable. It does not have to be this magical, happy ending that you're going to paint for yourself. I think that's crap, honestly, I think it's just literally, if you need to sit there and be like, yeah, I feel this way, but I'm going to be okay, or I feel this way, but I can just sit here and breathe, like calling that truce with your reality in a situation and having the energy put there where you can feel like blood flows to the surface, right? You ever get IVs and they have to like smack the shit out of your hand and then that brings blood to the surface. So I think if you have a hard time with like the maybe like energy side of things, biologically, all you're doing is bringing more blood to that area, focusing, using it as a way to pace yourself and focus on what you're saying, and then caressing it. I mean, that just feels good in general, right? So It's just a little bit of self-comfort. That is my favorite tool. I have used that quite a bit. So now, how's everyone feeling? Right, we're gonna dive into this last part here. And then I'm gonna do an unbracing exercise with you guys. And then I'm gonna check on these comments here in the chat, and we'll have Darcy come up for our client spotlight. So this last part here, this is a very in-depth topic based on the level of trauma that you've had. And so I don't mean to at all make this feel like so casual and stuff. This, depending on your situation, is something to dive deeper into in the appropriate settings. So definitely shoot me a text if that's your situation, and I'll help you get set up with someone who can help us, or we'll talk more about it. I just don't want you to feel like this very important next thing I'm going to tell you guys is something I think is small, it's major. So be in a good, safe, comfy place when you're looking to do this. Now, I want you guys to repair the inner child disconnect that happened. And again, varying levels of childhood issues in here, right? I have clients that had like the white picket fence upbringing, and then I have clients where it's like, I got put in the chokey. So I'm making light of my, my horrific ass childhood, but I want you to connect what you can in adulthood with what you know to what you learned as your base. None of us can help that we learned what we did growing up. And whether you have that white picket fence upbringing or you have the chokey as your upbringing, either way, it's going to cause issues later on. It happens, even helicopter parenting causes issues. So I want you guys to go back in the day and see where that connection could have been getting broken. The first part is to figure out what you didn't learn that you needed. And I would do that as a journaling prompt. I would take like a full week and every night have that same prompt and see how your feelings evolve in the matter, and so that you don't have to dive in deep in one session talking about it. But I would just simply start there, do a brain dump, a word dump, whatever. But what didn't you learn when you were younger that now, looking back, you needed to have learned? Or it would have been helpful. Like, this would have been great if someone taught me this. Okay. Then the second part is that once you have that all figured out, you're kind of more present with some of the stuff you're stacked against, right? The next time you beat yourself up, I want you to stop and I want you to assign an age to how you're acting towards yourself. And it might not make any sense, but in the moment when you do it, you'll know. And does it take you back to 5 years old, 13 years old, 16 years old, whatever it is, last year, whatever it is, next time you beat yourself up, close your eyes and take yourself back to that age. And I want you to literally caress your arm, close your eyes, like as if this was a person you cared about so much that was in front of you, that was dealing with beating themselves up the way you are beating yourself up. How would you console them? Because you are so much more capable in all of the things you've learned throughout all the messed up different variations of struggle you've all been through. You all have enough wherewithal to reparent that side of you, to now knowing better, establish that connection and say, okay, this is what I learned before, but this is what I know better now. If you've ever said to me, like, logically, I know that, but emotionally, I feel that, that's normal to a degree, but a lot of it could also be reconnecting these ties. Being able to reteach ourselves what we need in the moment, consoling ourselves instead of hating ourselves. The part about the cookie, I think if you have some love for yourself enough to say that cookie was really good, but I know it's going to make me feel like shit, so I don't need another one for a while. And then one day, guess what? Have another cookie. I think if you're allowed to gauge when you want to have a cookie or not, that is so much more loving long-term than to be like, oh, you are a piece of crap for having that cookie. What is that going to teach? What is that going to do? That's nothing. That's berating you. You're berating yourself. I know you know this. I've done it in the past too. But we know better. So let's do better. And that starts with going back to where that doesn't feel natural to us to do that. If you weren't provided with that example. So this is intense. This is definitely an intense thing to do. I'm not saying while you're waiting for your order at Dunkin', this is what you should be doing in your car, exploring the depths of your inner childhood trauma. Please don't. But if you feel like you're noticing, like, damn, I am just beating myself up, berating myself, and I want to start small, then just focus on what the hell age were you? What age are you feeling that vulnerability from? I think that can give you a lot of insight. And when you feel comfortable, maybe take that next step and reparent that part, think you're all capable of reparenting a lot better than you think. So let's embrace. Or you know what? Let me check these comments, then we'll embrace. Okay. So calming. Okay. Oh, I saw one up ahead. Okay. Trying to think how I can read this message anonymously. So this client is talking about someone close to them had a major health issue that's recovering, that's causing a long-term recovery. So, seeing that, it kind of, not that you ever took it for granted, but, maybe it just kind of opens up that door to saying like, wow, look how hard that person's body is fighting for them right now. We all got that. All of us got that. So exactly, if you could give that grace to someone you care about who's in a long-term recovery, then it's why expect great things if you don't want to at least try and provide that same support for yourself if no one else has. So, okay. And then crazy story regarding the mind-body connection. I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks so bad that I took a leave of absence from my job for 2 months. This was like 9 years ago. The reason I took a leave was because of the physical symptoms I was experiencing: burning pain in my back, muscle twitching pain, extreme fatigue to the point I couldn't keep awake, especially after eating. This is when I realized how linked the brain and emotional connection is to our physical well-being. It is so connected. So connected. My health was absolutely in the shitter when I was at one of the most stressful jobs of my life, and my physical health. And it was nonstop stress, So, oh my God, those days, I got so many stories. But yeah, absolutely. And what did I want to say? Oh, for example, too, anxiety doesn't always manifest as panic or conscious anxiety. Anxiety can be illness. So for example, I cannot watch the news. I cannot. I find that even if I don't get emotionally engaged, I don't have a reaction to it. There is something subconsciously about it, whether it's the sound of it. Like I think predominantly like the shows where they're all like talking. I cannot do that. I will notice that I just have this awful nausea that lingers for days. This like terrible feeling of like, I cannot open my eyes correctly. I can't even describe it. And I couldn't figure out what the hell it was. And then I realized I stopped just leaving on stuff in the background. Like, I love Shark Tank. So sometimes like Shark Tank on MSNBC would end and then I just leave it on. And even that was just triggering in some way. It would trigger my anxiety. I would get sucked into the stories I'd read online all the time. And I really have to pick and choose where my energy goes with that, because if I do get sucked in, even if I'm not emotionally charged at all, I will then be sick for days. It happens without fail every time. It's anxiety, the brain body connection. So, okay, let's embrace those of you who want to. I want to see your feedback, and I want to see just how this connected with you. So anything you feel comfortable sharing, feel free in the chat. I'm going to do embracing so I can show you guys how to kind of tell the brain to not brace itself for impact, which we might not even notice we do all the time. First step, this is for a good refresher, or if you're new, first step is to shake out your hands like you washed them and you don't have a towel, right? Then next step, you're going to release your shoulders from your ears. If they're all like crunched up, just relax them away. Sometimes even that is just a reminder to do that, Then you're going to start rotating your shoulders around. Just don't do it to the point where you get hurt. Like I have limits to how you'll see me stretch. It's my joints. Right? Then you're going to do the same with your head. So my head's not turning today, guys. Did you hear that? Gotta love silicone. Okay. Facial stretches are the last part. So after you have shaken it out, rotated your shoulders to loosen them up, and then rotated your head, you're going to stretch your smile as wide as you can and release. I feel weird about having my teeth in the broad screen, you know, just blast it up on here, but extra points if you full on get in there and commit. So like really stretch them out, like full teeth, full smile. You want to cause that real restriction there and then release. Eyes, you're going to stretch them so that you look super surprised, stretch them up, put the strain here as much as you can, and release. Everyone looks ridiculous. It's okay. No one can see. So, right? I love doing that. So that is unbracing. That is telling your brain, because all the tension we have in our jaw, in our eyes from all day long, we don't realize that's also stress. So if this is all tense and then your shoulders are crunched up and you're not like loosened up, you know, and you're, you know, really just rigid, which we all are after a long day of work and stress and blah, 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 then your brain is going to stay on edge. Your brain is going to be waiting for that cue that you got to be ready for impact. And that is not great for hormones. So doing this unbracing exercise throughout the day, even, it honestly calms down cortisol, calms that stress response, because it subconsciously, like, it tells the brain, like, we're loosened up, we're limber, we're fine. Everything is, you know, everything's handled right now, without you needing to be like, which we don't even realize we do. At least I never did. So, all right. Anything in the comments? Let's see here. I felt nauseous today and realized it would have been my 11th year anniversary today, but I've been divorced for 6 months. Well, that sucks, but happy like Freedom Day. We'll talk privately after this for sure. But anxiety wears on the body. Like, it is, nausea for me is the first sign. Like, I can't. And then I also am terrified of throwing up. So it's like, once I feel like, oh my God, am I going to throw up? Then forget it. Ding, ding, anxiety on full blast. We'll talk privately for sure, but I'm happy you're in a safe space. So for me as a kid, I had anxiety about everything. Asteroids hitting Earth, my roof caving in on me, etc. I hear that with OCD. As I got older, I thought I was getting less anxious just because my anxious thoughts weren't there, but I started to get physically sick. Then I started to feel dissociative and in constant fog 24/7. However, my dissociation is always accompanied with the physical symptoms you were mentioning: stomach issues, incontinence, just a sense of my body being in disarray. The brain and body are crazy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, I think it's patronizing a lot of times, or when people are like, oh, you know, just gotta have a better mindset. You know, think about it. Like, I'm all about that kind of stuff, you know that, but to a degree, like, let's not also take away the fact that all of this is really difficult. But if there's anybody who needs their brain and body connection to be stronger, it's people with chronic illness. You know, I think it's so important. We can't just be like, oh, you know, think happy. No, like, no, just no. It's not good in the long run if you can even do that. So it's freedom, enjoy. So toxic positivity is the bane of my existence. There is no reason everything has to be great all the time. There's no reason that because things are not great all the time, that they're going to be bad all the time either. There is a flexibility about life and day to day that I feel like other people's opinions and society and all this shit just kind of make us live in a place of how we should be feeling. And you know my philosophy on should. So, all right, let's get Darcy pinned to the top here and ask a couple questions for our client spotlight. And then I will bid you all adieu so I can go eat because my stomach sounds crazy. So, all right, Darcy, yay. Okay, so Darcy's one of our relatively new clients. You've been with us a little over a month, right? I think.
Yeah, I started at the end of March, I believe.
Yeah, awesome. So I wanted to have Darcy talk with you guys just to kind of get perspective. Sometimes a lot of times I'll have people from KGG, like the secondary program in here, but I know we have a lot more newcomers, and I think it's good as a refresher for some of you guys who've been doing this for a while to hear like a new set of eyes. So tell us, how were you feeling when you were coming into CCA, honestly?
When I was coming into CCA, I was just really hopeful that this would be the program that would work for me, because I felt like I had exhausted my efforts trying everything else that didn't work. And I just really wanted it to be a success.
Yeah. Were you nervous at all? Like if it didn't work out or?
Yeah, I was nervous, feeling like this doesn't work out, then I don't have like a plan B.
Yeah.
It's just, my life's just going to be crappy.
Because it's also like, I say this all the time, my clients come to me when they've already tried other stuff, so it's like, if this, which seems so gentle and awesome and everything, if this completely fails, then wow, I'm just hopeless. How did you find that, or I should say, when did you, sorry, I should probably just read what I wrote here, right? What was the hardest baby step so far since starting, and what's surprising about that?
Well, I initially thought it was going to be to eat over 1,200 calories, but the hacks have really helped out with that. So I would say that the hardest one has been to give up caffeine.
How many people cringed when they heard that? They're like, "Ugh," how has that been surprising for you so far?
It surprised me how I was able to see the positive effects of giving it up so quickly.
What'd you notice?
I noticed that I was sleeping better at night. I was getting more restful sleep, and I wasn't waking up feeling like I immediately needed my coffee.
Yeah, I think
And
that's what I hear the most is people who are like, I'm surprised that like day 3, I forgot that I didn't have my coffee today. Like, I'm like, oh, should I have my coffee? Like, yeah. How many days did it take you to feel like okay again?
it honestly took a couple weeks. I would say I think I was in denial about how much coffee I actually drank in a day, and I had built up a really big tolerance to it. So, and it probably took a couple weeks to feel like I was getting like my natural energy back, if that makes sense.
Totally. Now, did you start slow? Did you go right for it? Like, tell me about how the process was of cutting down on caffeine.
Well, I listened to Evie, and initially when I would wake up in the morning, my go-to would be to have a cup of coffee right away. But I listened to Evie, and she said to wait at least 2 hours after you wake up to have it. So when I would wake up, I would immediately drink water. I would guzzle as much water as I could. And then I would have a decaf tea. So I would still feel like I was comforted by doing my habit of having something warm in the morning. And I just gradually just decreased
Yeah.
my
Baby
caffeine. Hmm.
baby step to baby step. Yeah. I think that's the most, and I love decaf because I love like, it's not just about the item, it's also the whole routine, the whole just the idea of the habit of it, and I love warm drinks. Now I'm on a kick. I'll probably be sick of it in like a month, but I love spearmint tea. I kind of have always loved it though. So I don't think that's going anywhere. But if I had to stop drinking spearmint tea in the morning, I would replace it with a different tea, because I still want that warmth, that whole like thing, kind of look forward to it, so it's okay to take it little by little, and not go just like cold turkey. If anything, that sucks, So any words of advice to anyone new or as new as you are, like what would you say to them so far with what you've seen?
Just stay the course, trust the process, and just give yourself grace.
Yeah. And text us because we're never going to get mad at you. So awesome. Thank you for being our client spotlight today. You're doing amazing. I'm really proud of you. So shoot me a text. Let's chat out some stuff and how we can take that baby step even further now. And if anybody else has any questions or anything, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll relay it. So thank you guys for tuning in. All of you watching the recording and live, whatever. I want to hear feedback. I want to know what you thought of this, if you found it helpful, if you didn't. And make sure you reach out. Okay. Enjoy your week. I'm going to go eat because, oh my God. All right. Bye.